Earlier this spring, when the daffodils bloomed, I decided to see if I could keep them forever. So, I cut a couple of flowers and put them away in silica gel. This was the first time I have ever dried flowers this way, so I was very curious if this actually worked. Spring has since rolled into summer. The flowers have dried wonderfully well and have retained their form without losing color. Something which I was never able to achieve while drying flowers by pressing them between the pages of a book when I was young. Now I will make them into wonderful daffodil earrings which will remind me of spring in any season. Let's start with the first flower. I managed to nick this petal a little while storing the flower. After taking it out from the drying box, I should probably have stored it by supporting it from the stem instead of letting it lie on its side. Anyways, I will fix this with UV resin when I'm curing it. So first, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to coat this daffodil with UV resin and give the petals a little firm structure because right now it is still very fragile and I am actually terrified that I will accidentally break one of these petals. I have filled too much resin into this cup in the center and now I am using it as a cup for holding resin while crafting. This was definitely not intentional, it was a mistake. There is a learning curve here and allowances must be made for working with my first 3D dried flower resin project. For the next flower, I'm definitely not going to fill it all the way to the center because it is unnecessary for the build to be solid, though this technique does help in covering the pistils. So let's go ahead and work on our petals properly. Now, this is important to know. You will not get the same long-term result if you directly add fresh daffodil into resin. The water content would over time make the petal rot inside the resin and your project will be ruined. So, if you're planning to put flowers into resin, it must properly be dried first. Now that it is coated from stem to tip, let's cure it. I just ran this under UV light and as you can see the structure is much more stable and it is holding its form well. The colors are resplendent and everything else. It is looking so pretty. I can't wait to complete this. There is a little extra something here around the stem. Let's move this away. It also seems that there are residual silica gel granules inside. It is finally clean. We can start with the resin process. I took a lesser amount of UV resin because we really don't need that much. Once I start coating, I will do the same as I did for the other flower and coat the entire surface properly so that it can hold its structure. Flat flowers are so much easier to work with. Let's see if I can get through this project without breaking these dried flowers. It is a little nerve-wracking to work with this because, first of all, with my gloved hands, the dexterity of my fingers is a little less than usual, and I am so worried that I will break one or all of the petals accidentally and squish the bell in the center while handling it. We are done with this, so let's cure. I just ran this under UV light and now it is ready for the next stage, which will be another coat of resin because a single layer of resin is nearly not strong enough, because it can easily crunch and break these petals. But before I do that, I want to introduce the mechanism by which this will become a pendant. For this, I will be introducing these hoops. I will be hanging these hoops from these hooks. Right now, I am realizing that probably I should have introduced the hoops into the flower before I applied the resin, because now there is a chance that when I try to make this hole at the back, it might crack open. In fact, I probably should have introduced the hoop when the flower was still fresh, because the whole structure would have been more forgiving and it would have dried around this hoop, securing it in place. So, the next time I dry these flowers, which I definitely will do again considering this result, which looks totally awesome by the way, I will introduce maybe a wire or this hoop before I dry the flowers. But I have to wait till next spring for my daffodil harvest because since this was an experiment, I had just dried 2 daffodils this spring and I forgot about it till about almost 3 months. I am being very, very, very careful here. So this one went well. I'm not very confident about the bonding though. I have a feeling that this might just pop out, but I'm not pushing it too much because I don't want to break the flower. This one, even by looking at it, I can tell that this fellow will be problematic. For one, the end is sort of scrunched and has lost its three-dimensional quality and is almost flattened. And it's pointy and it seems to be dried shut completely. This one is going to be tricky. Anyway, let's see what I can do with it. Sorry about the camera angles while working on this. I was completely focused on getting it right and I completely forgot that I was also sharing the visuals with you. I have managed to put this inside. It's not very well lodged. I will have to secure it further, which can be achieved with the next coat of resin. And I can see some uncured resin which was trapped inside the center coming out here, which was probably in the shadow area and did not cure. Time to add the next layer. For this, I'm going to be using the dip doming technique because it's going to be so much faster and it'll create a softer, more even outline. Because this surface is so multifaceted, it is important that you drip off all the excess resin so that it doesn't become too bulky. I have let one of the petals have a little drippy drop which will kind of look like glistening morning dew. This technique too, apart from providing additional strength to the daffodil, secures the hook properly to the rest of the flower. If you try this, then you will need to take care and pay attention to the center because in this dip technique, you might end up trapping an air bubble in this daffodil bell. Look at this. It is looking so wonderful. Yellow is such a happy color, and yes, now I am able to handle this piece without feeling crazy. And this dew effect is looking super cute. I have some wire here which I'm going to use to add finishing touches because I'm not liking the aesthetics of this joint where this hook is meeting the flower. So I'm going to use this wire and create a little bit of, I don't know what this is called, a little bit of transition so that it starts looking more like a complete ensemble instead of a skewered flower. The ends are done and they look so cute. I'm not really that good with the wire art stuff, especially with how to deal with the wire ends. Here these wires have just been wrapped around this piece and I don't want them to snap out or become loose over time. So I'm going to secure them in place with some, you guessed it, UV resin. I'm just adding a dab and then brushing it into this texture so that it doesn't stand out like a reflective, transparent layer around my coiled wire. The intention is not to dome this silvery wire detail, but just to add a coating which will protect the finish and secure it in place. I will do this to both the daffodil ends, paying special attention to where the wire meets the hook, so that the detail is absolutely secure. Now, let's complete our earrings by making these wonderful daffodil pendants into earrings by adding these hoops. Here is a little trivia for you. The drooping flowers that characterize most daffodils, often seen as a nodding head, are said to represent narcissus. The scientific name for the daffodil genus Narcissus is believed to come directly from this Greek myth. If you want, you can also use them as a charm or hang it on a keychain or something. It is quite sturdy, and if you want to make this even sturdier, just add one more coat of resin. But if the resin has properly been cured, this should hold its shape. My daffodil earrings are complete and they are looking so lovely and happy. I am so glad I worked on this project. Hope this was a fun watch, happy crafting, and have a wonderful day.